So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while we were blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So let us continue reading from the Bhagavad Gita. And we are reading from text 64, beginning from text 64, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So you can all read along, either on screen or with your own Bhagavad Gita. And we'll be finishing up this chapter pretty soon, maybe a day or two. So, okay, text 64, Raga Dvesha Vimuktais Vishayanandriyashcharan Atma Yashat Vasyar Videyatma Prasada Marigachati. So raga, attachment, dvesha, and detachment, bimuktahai, by one who has become free from, two, but, vishayan, sense objects, indriyai, by the senses, charan, acting upon, atma vaishyahi, under one's control, videya atma, one who follows regulated freedom, prasadam, the mercy of the Lord, adhigachati, attains. So translation, but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulated principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Very important verse. Of course, here Prabhupada translates this as regulated principles of freedom, because when you actually follow the regulated principles, you're no longer controlled by your senses. You can actually take charge instead of having the senses drag you here and there. So you actually become free for the first time in your life. I mean, sometimes people think they're free by following the dictates of the senses. Like they're thinking, tonight I feel like eating this, tonight I feel like Chinese food, tonight I feel like Indian food, the next night I feel like Italian food, the next night I feel like Mexican food, or whatever food. And it's just the senses that are dictating all those things to you. And actually, you're not controlling the senses. And when you can control them, you can focus the mind on anything you want. That's the purpose of yoga. To stop the vritti, or the turning of the mind. That's what Patanjali says. And when you're able to stop it, you can focus and accomplish miracles. In fact, you can do the impossible. As Prabhupada once said to us in Los Angeles, when he asked the devotees to publish 17 books in 2 months, the devotee said impossible, Prabhupada said impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And when the devotees focused on Prabhupada's desire, and that was 100% their focus for about 2 months, then they were able to do that. 17 hardbound, big books with pictures, everything original, in 2 months. Amazing. I mean, even the printer was not able to believe it. And actually, I was going to the printer sometime and talking to the printer because I was helping to supervise some of the printing. And he had never seen anything like it in his life. Not even 8 books in 2 months. What to speak of 17 original books. Big, hardbound, 300, 400-page books in 2 months. And that's because of focus. You focus and you can do amazing things. So purport. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. It's like attraction and aversion. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable, and if Krishna does not want, he shall not do with that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. So Prabhupada says something very easy, very interesting here. This consciousness the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. In other words, even if one is not, let me unpack that, even if one is not a absolutely pure devotee to the Lord and still has some attachments on the sensual platform, if he exercises his intelligence to control the mind, he can act properly. It's as simple as that. Even though the senses are still attracted, and he's still identifying with the senses, and he's still identifying with the mind, he can act transcendentally. That's pretty amazing. All right, so text 65. Prasade sarva dukanam hanir aso pajayate prasana chetaso yashu mudi paryavatishtate. Prasade, on achievement of the causeless mercy of the Lord, sarva dukanam, sarva means of all, dukanam, material miseries, hanihi, destruction, asha, his, upajayate takes place, prasana chetasaha, of the happy-minded, he, certainly, ashru, very soon, buddhi, intelligence, pari, sufficiently, avatish tate, becomes established. Okay, so read the translation. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So in other words, one is satisfied. Satisfied means basically one's peaceful and having his needs, his or her needs, fulfilled. And in the 5th chapter, text 29, the end of the 5th chapter of the Gita, Krishna says, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvalokamaheshwaram Suradam Sarvabhutanam Gatvam Shantim Richati, that one can only come to the platform of Shanti, which means peace, if one understands that Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the friend, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, he's the Lord of all worlds. In other words, he's our best friend, he's in charge of everything, and Getwamam Shanti Machati, you can become peaceful, that's satisfied. For one who is hankering after things in this world, he'll never be satisfied, as the verse goes, Avritam Gyana Metena Gyanina Nichavarana Kamarupena Kontia Dushprena Lena Cha. The more you have, the more the fire becomes inflamed and the more you want. So, if one is satisfied, then the miseries of this material world, remember we talked about the threefold miseries, miseries from the body and mind, miseries from living entities, and miseries from the material energy, don't exist, even though they're happening to the body, the mind, the material energy, and other living entities. They don't exist because one's not identifying with those things. One is detached. So then one develops Krishna conscious intelligence. So text 66. Nasti buhir ayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kata sukham. Naasti, there cannot be buddhi, transcendental intelligence, ayuktasya, of one who is not connected with Krishna consciousness, na, not, cha, and ayuktasya, of one devoid of Krishna consciousness, bhavana, fixed in mind, or fixed mind and happiness, na, not, cha, and abhavayataha, of one who is not fixed, shanti, peace, ashantasya, of the unpeaceful, kutaha, where is sukham, happiness? Translation, one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence, nor a steady mind, without which there's no possibility of peace, which is what we just talked about before. Because if one's not connected with Krishna, then the mind will be looking for so many different objects. And this is the nature of the mind, to accept and reject things. It won't be focused, or as a previous verse in this chapter, Ekehar Gunanda, he won't be one-pointed. And how can there be any happiness without peace? And here Prabhupada is going to quote the same verse that I just quoted. Unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there's no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, text 29, which is the verse I just quoted, when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only can one have real peace. Again, the Sanskrit for that verse is Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvalokmaheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Richati, which means basically what Prabhupada just said. And one thing that's interesting is this Suridam Sarvabhutanam, that Krishna is the friend of all living entities, but this Suridam means good heart. In other words, someone who is actually not just like a mitra. Mitra means like an ordinary friend in Sanskrit. You know, I have so many friends that I play basketball with, or football, or rugby, or whatever other game I'm playing. But he's a heart friend, you know, someone who's very dear to you. Surinam Sarvabhutanam. And that friend is always with you. One of the things that impressed me about chanting Hare Krishna in the beginning was that I could always have my best friend with me just by saying Krishna. So then you become peaceful. Therefore, if one is non-Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. You don't know what your goal of life is. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace. You know, whoever else you have a relationship with, if you don't have a relationship with Krishna, it's just always doubt. The person can't fulfill your needs. The person can't protect you in all circumstances. The person's not going to be with you in all circumstances. I mean, it's just not fulfilling. However much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. Very nice. All right. Going quickly. Text 67. Indriyanam hi charatam yan mano nu vidyate tadasya hariti pragyang vayurnavam ivambasi. Indriyanam of the senses, he certainly. Charatam while roaming, yat with which, manaha, the mind. Anuvidhyate becomes constantly engaged, tat that asya his. Harati takes away. Pragyam, intelligence. Vayuhu, wind. Nabam, a boat. Iva, like. Ambashi, on the water. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even if one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Remember the previous verse? Jayatobhajak pusam sangostesha pajayate sangat sanjayate kama. Remember that? From contemplating sense objects, one gets attached to them, one gets extremely lusty or anxious or hankering for them, and then after that comes anger, bewilderment of memory, one loses intelligence and falls down in the material whirlpool. So it all happens when you focus on an object, on a sense object, either subtle or gross. That was the question that was raised yesterday. When you focus on a sense object, either subtle or gross, it steals away your intelligence. And what is the intelligence? The intelligence is several things. It's the form direction of the supersoul, yes, but it's your long-term objectives. what do you want out of life, or even a shorter long term, what do you want 5 years from now? Because you get deviated from your determination to achieve something in this world. And that generally happens because of the mode of passion and ignorance. In the mode of goodness, one is completely fixed. If one is in the mode of passion, then one is also fixed, but for passionate goals, like money, 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 money. If one is in the mode of ignorance, your determination to do anything never goes beyond dreaming and procrastination, putting off for tomorrow what you can do today. You're dreaming that in the future you'll have this, you'll be able to do that, and you never do anything to achieve any of those things. So at least in passion and goodness, there's some sort of determination. Goodness, material goodness, your determination is based on liberation. In spiritual goodness, your determination is based on pleasing Krishna, becoming Krishna conscious, pleasing the devotees, like that. So we have to cultivate this goodness, this mode of goodness, so we can actually focus. And in order to do that, we have to be very careful what we contemplate with the subtle or gross senses. Prabhupada explains in his purport, unless all the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. Text 68. Tasmadnyasya mahabahu nigrahitani sarvashaha indriyan indriyartebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. Tasmat, therefore, Yashahu's Mahabahu, Almighty Arm One, Nigrahitani, so curved down, Sarvashaha, all around, Indriyani, the senses, Indriya Artebhyaha, from sense objects, Tasya, his, Pragya, intelligence, Pratishtita, fixed. Translation, therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. That is, restrained from the material objects, restrained from objects which are not pleasing to Krishna, or part of the advancement in Krishna consciousness. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya gives us 6 symptoms of surrender. And the first 2 symptoms are the only ones I'm going to talk about right now. The first 2 symptoms are accept everything favorable for pleasing Krishna and reject everything unfavorable is the second symptom or evidence of pure devotional service. Reject everything favorable and accept everything favorable, or vice versa. Usually acceptance comes first before rejection. So that's steady intelligence. But so if something is useful in Krishna consciousness, we can engage our senses in that particular sense object. Like I was mentioning even the other day, that if one is in the Grahastha ashram, Krishna says, Kamo Asmi, I am sex life according to the rules and regulations of devotional service. So one is engaging his senses in such a way, but actually for the purpose of pleasing Krishna. So Prabhupada explains in his purport, one can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness, or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior force, the senses can similarly be curbed not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation. So interesting, the word sadhaka means one who is practicing, not yet liberated, but practicing Krishna consciousness in order to become Krishna conscious. So there's different stages of devotional service, and the first stage of devotional service is called sadhana bhakti, which is performed by a sadhaka. And there's two aspects of sadhana bhakti, two stages, divisions. One is called Vaidhi, rules and regulations. The other one is Raganuga, in which one is following the same rules and regulations but spontaneously, but not because they're simply rules and regulations, but because one actually has a spontaneous attraction for them because they connect one with Krishna. So one who practices this art under the proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master is called a sadhaka. So we are devotees in practice. The text 69. Very interesting verse. Yanisha sarvabhutanam tashyam jagarti samyame yasham jagrati bhutani sanisha pashato munahe. Ya, what? Nisha is night, sarva, all, bhutanam, of living entities, tashyam, in that, jagarti, is wakeful, samyami, is self-controlled, yasham, in which, jagrati, are awake, bhutani, all beings, sa, that is, nisha, night, pashyataha, for the introspective, munahe, sage. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. So there's several ways to take this verse. One is, literally, that those who are very fixed in Krishna consciousness, generally, get up early in the morning. And early in the morning is night for the regular people, the all beings that's mentioned here. So the sages, they get up early, whereas the regular people, they get up late. And the sages, they take rest early, and the regular people, they stay up at night. And there's actually a reason for that, because each and every time of the day has a particular mode of nature attached to it. The early morning is technically called before, usually about an hour and a half before sunrise, is called the Brahma Muhurta time. And Srila Prabhupada told us that one should rise during that time or right before that time, or be awake during the Brahma Muhurta time, because that's the best time for self-realization, because the mode of goodness is prominent during that time. Very easy to chant, very easy to meditate. And then after that, you have the mode of passion come. And then it's very hard, or harder, to sit still, meditate, chant, and read. And you see, Srila Prabhupada, in his personal life, he would usually wake up or start his work at 1 o'clock in the morning. And most of his books were translated in the early morning while everyone else was sleeping. And generally, well, he didn't go to sleep too early, but see, that's one way to understand this verse in a very literal way. Another way to understand this verse is to understand that what interests people, activities that interest people who are not spiritually inclined, is not interesting for people who are spiritually inclined. And vice versa. That's just life. So Prabhupada explains this in this purport. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. In other words, they're not interested in those activities. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic men. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to material happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. Now this is very heroic. Like you see this, let's say in the battlefield, not that we're interested in battlefields so much, but you see this in battlefields where there's some hero who actually is so determined to carry out his mission for his country or for whatever he's fighting for, that he endures extreme pain. You know, there may be bullets in him or whatever like that, and he still saves his countrymen and wins a Medal of Honor or something like that, or a Purple Heart by the government. So we're not advocating that one should do that. But if one is actually fixed in Krishna consciousness, he's indifferent. You know, material happiness, distress, the world is falling apart, the coronavirus or not the coronavirus, the weather's nice, the weather's bad, people love him, people hate him. He just goes on because he's connected to Krishna and he has his internal life. See, that's really the point. To have an internal life, that's what we call introspective. Introspective doesn't mean that he simply goes to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and looks within. And the psychiatrist, psychologist asks him the question, how do you feel? Did you have a happy childhood? Do you remember when you were 5 years old when your mother spanked you? Now, that's not introspective, at least spiritual introspective. Introspective actually means something different, that he looks inside for his happiness, for his relationship with Krishna. So even if the world's falling apart, he's sick, he's on his deathbed, he's happy because he has that internal relationship with Krishna. So that's really what we're hankering for. So text 70, it looks like we may finish the chapter today. That would be amazing. And then we could take questions if we finish chapter 2. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramappa pravishanti advat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantimapnoti nakamakami. Apuryamanam, always being filled, achala pratishtam, steadily situated, samudram, the ocean, apaha, waters, pravishanti, enter, yadvat, as tadvat, so, kamaha, desires, yam, unto whom, pravishanti, enters, sarve, all, saha, that person, shantim, peace, apnoti, achieves, na, not, kama, kami, one who desires to fulfill desires. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. A very poetic expression. So these desires, which are coming from impressions on the subtle body, which we've mentioned before, these desires, he's coming, and one doesn't act on them because he understands they come, I ignore it, goes away, another one will come, ignore that, goes away. But we actually function on what desires we have to please Krishna. It's not that one ignores all the desires, one analyzes the desire. If a desire arises, then you do a thorough analysis of it. Is this pleasing to Krishna or is it not pleasing to Krishna? Like I gave the example the other day, that one day I was by a place where you could go hang gliding and someone was going to pay for me to go hang gliding. I had a desire to go hang gliding and I analyzed it. Should I go or should I not go? I have a desire to do it. Then I thought, how will Krishna be pleased? Also, I did think, how will I explain it to the devotees? So, based on that, I understood, well, can't please Krishna by it, and it was a waste of time and waste of this person's money, so I'm not going to do it, even though I had that desire. So in other words, you examine the desires with intelligence based upon your goal in life. That's all. Very simple. Very, very simple here. And then you understand the desires will keep going. They're not going to stop. until you become 100% Krishna conscious. Then you just basically tolerate them, as mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Kroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Uttarapashta Vegam. That you have all these pushings that come, not only from the mind, but the belly, the genitals, anger, words, and the tongue, like that. And you just tolerate them. You know, they're coming. So what? They're coming and going. Because if you give in to it, then the desire gets stronger. And that's the problem. Just like if you're trying to train someone up and you give into something they want that's counterproductive to the training, and you're letting them get away with proverbial murder, then it'll run counter to the training. They will actually not be trained up. They'll think they can get away with anything. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna-conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the river that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. So what I do is I think not only what would Krishna want, but what would Prabhupada want. And based upon that, I either do something or don't do something. That is the proof of a Krishna-conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. In other words, being Krishna-conscious or fully Krishna-conscious doesn't mean it's like taking Novocaine for your material desires. It basically means you just tolerate, and that's part of showing your love for Krishna. You know, if you show love in the material world, you have to tolerate so many things. Like if someone is working a job 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, or even more, it's not always the most pleasant thing in everybody's job. So you just tolerate it because you understand you're accomplishing something that you really want to accomplish, maintaining your family, taking care of them, showing your family your love. Okay? So others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. There's another interesting verse in Bengali on that. Bhukti mukti siddhikam sakale shanta Krishna bhakta nishkam atayeva shanta. That whether one wants gross sense gratification or liberation or even powers like yogis have powers, then he can't be peaceful. But one who actually wants Krishna, Krishna bhakta, one who loves Krishna, nishkam, he's without any material desires, and then atayeva shanta, he can attain peace. Fruit of workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers, this is exactly what I was saying in that verse that I was quoting, are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. So the mind is always disturbed. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. It doesn't mean they have no desires. They desire to please Krishna out of love. Next verse. We're almost finished with the chapter. Vihaya kamam yat sarvam pumam charati niksprihaha nirmamo nirahankara sashanti marigachati. Vihaya, giving up, kaman, material desires for sense gratification, ya, who, sarvan, all, puman, a person, charati, lives, niksprihaha, desireless, nirmamaha, without a sense of proprietorship, nirahankaraha, without false ego, sahahi, shantim, perfect peace, adhigachati, attains. Translation: a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain peace. So this is another peace formula here. So instead of desires for sense gratification, we have desire to please Krishna. It's not that we have to give up all desires, but we can focus the desires on to please Krishna. Who lives free from desires, here we're talking about material desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, meaning that Krishna owns everything. Krishna is the owner, he's the controller of everything, and devoid of false ego. Two divisions of false ego are I and mine. Same thing. That I am the center, and something can be mine, or a lot of things can be mine, or I want things to be mine. Greediness. So if one can do that, you can be peaceful. And without peace, there's no question of happiness. And Prabhupada explains, to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as the eternal servitor of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in this world is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of the desires. A materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavashamidam sarvam, and that's from the Ishopanishad, the first mantra. And therefore he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. And Prabhupada keeps repeating himself here because it's such an important point. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely knowing perfectly well that every living entity is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity. In other words, just like a drop of the ocean has, if the ocean was actually homogeneous, but anyway, that means all the same. Let's just take that theoretically, hypothetically. Then the drop of ocean, if you study one drop of the ocean, you can understand the whole ocean's constitution. So we have the same constitution as Krishna, except we are small and Krishna is big. Just like a drop is small and the ocean is big, but the constitution is the same. So like we have desires, we want so many things, we want relationships specifically, and Krishna also wants the same thing. Of course, Krishna is satisfied because being the Supreme, he can satisfy his own desires, but there's one thing that he really wants that he doesn't have right now, which is us. And that's out of love. Even though Krishna has everything, you know, the question sometimes arises, what can you get from the man who has everything? Well, you can give him your love. So in the same way, Krishna has everything, but really he's hankering for our love. And that's real love on his part. Because usually love in this material world is based upon someone's unfulfilled need. Krishna has no unfulfilled needs. Because he has unlimited Lakshmis, Lakshmi Sahasra Sambrahma Sevimanam, Govindamati Purasham Tamaham Pashami, unlimited gopis, unlimited cows, give, you know, unlimited whatever he wants from the cows, desire cows, kamadhenus. So, but he still wants us because of his love. He wants us to be happy and to be relating with him. It's amazing how much Krishna loves us in spite of being self-sufficient. Aptakami gets anything he wants anytime he wants it. So this understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace. Wow. And then, text 72, Esha Brahmi Stiti Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuyati Stitvashyam Antakalepi Brahma Nirvana Mrichati. Esha, this Brahmi, spiritual, Stiti, situation, Partha, son of Pratha. Na, never, Enam, this, Prapya, achieving, Vimuyati, one is bewildered, Stitva, being situated, Ashyam, in this, Anantakale, at the end of life, Api also, Brahma Nirvanam, the spiritual kingdom of God, Richati, one attains. Translation, that is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which, so Prabhupada's giving us the process, by which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God, go back to home, back to God. And Prabhupada explains in this verse, one can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after many millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. Katvanga Maharaj attained the state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering unto Krishna. The study of that, and the story about that is that Katvanga was fighting on behalf of the demigods, and the demigods asked him after he won the war and they were satisfied with him, what do you want? Ask for anything. And he said, I simply want to know when I'm going to die. And they said, well, in just a few seconds from now, check your watch. And he immediately came down to this earth planet, surrendered to Krishna in just a few minutes, a few moments, and went back to home, back to Godhead. So many of us will not have that sort of warning. Actually, when Parikshit Maharaj had the warning, it was 7 days. And that's good to have a warning like that. Most of the time, well, I don't know, most of the time, but many times one doesn't have a warning. It just happens all of a sudden. Nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after the completion of this material life. But Bhagavad Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of this material life. For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. Nirvana means a negation of the material miseries. There is no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. In other words, let me unpack that in the kingdom of God, that's what people are doing. So the Krishna conscious activities are eternal activities. They're both the sadhana and sajja. That means they're both the means and the goal simultaneously. So what we're doing now, we'll do in the spiritual world. Of course, it'll have a little different quality. Since both of them are on the absolute plane, to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. Attainment of Krishna consciousness, even during this life, is immediate attainment of Brahman, and one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God. Brahman is just the opposite of matter. Brahman means spirit, or it actually means the greatest. Therefore, Brahma Stiti means not on the platform of material activities. Devotional service of the Lord is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as the liberated stage. Sagunan Samadhi Jaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So that's a famous verse. Mamchiyo Vyavacharena Bhakti Yogena Sevatai Salagunan Samadhi Jaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. One who is situated on the Brahman platform, Mamchiyo Vyavacharena, doing Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yogena Sevatai, serving Krishna in great love. Sagunan Samadhi Jaitam overcomes these three modes of nature and becomes situated in the spiritual platform, Brahman platform. Therefore, Brahma Sthiti is liberation from material bondage. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has summarized the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as being the contents for the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matters are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents for the complete text. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of its contents. So we finished the second chapter, and tomorrow we will go on to the third chapter. And so now we will give some opportunities for the devotees to ask questions after I take everyone off of the mute process. Give me a second. All right. Okay, so who has a question on what we just read?
Gurudev?
Yes.
Yes. I was wondering, there was one incident. A friend of mine was part of a group, and because a difference of opinion, he got kicked out of the group, and now he's kind of blaming the other group members, going to different details, this and that. But as far as I see that he was also, there was some things that he could be blamed of to agitate that group. So how could one tell such a person, start telling maybe to ease his mind that he shouldn't worry about and point out, softly kind of point out his faults also?
Phew. I think I would have to see the exact circumstance of who it was, what they said to him, what, how he is feeling, how they are feeling. But in any case, he should see Krishna behind everything. Sometimes we may have done something wrong, and sometimes we haven't done something wrong, and we still get blamed for it, or we still get a reaction for it. And then we have to understand, in either case, Krishna is saying something to them, to that person, or to us, and act accordingly. Because not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. So he should be introspective and find out within himself if he did something wrong. And even if he didn't do something wrong, then it's just Krishna making him more humble. It's Krishna. Anything outside of your control is Krishna doing. And therefore, it behooves you to figure out why Krishna has done this, or why Krishna has put you in that situation. That's how I would advise him. He has to see Krishna everywhere. I mean, to get angry because you weren't treated properly doesn't really solve the problem. You have to just Trinadapi Sunicha Durari Vasishra Amanina Manadena Kirtini Asarahari. You have to become more tolerant than dream, humbler than this blade of grass, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others, as you know. And that means that Krishna, whoops, I kicked the camera. Krishna will actually test us to see if we understand that point. So you can either preach to him or just tell him it's Krishna and ask him to figure out what Krishna wants from him or what Krishna wants him to learn. Okay?
Yeah, very good.
All right, Krishna's everything. Krishna's everywhere. So things are outside of our control and things happen and we have to really accept it. We do not, we are not the controllers. I mean, I hate to tell you that. We're not the controllers.
Right.
And, a lot of things happen to all of us that are outside of our desire or plan. So, all right, Rishikesh, you have a question.
Yes, Gurudev. My obeisance, Gurudev. I'm still not able to clearly understand this fact that how can you surrender Krishna within a second, or it may take millions of years. It's just the Prabhupada is just a question of accepting the fact. Can you please explain? Elaborate on that. What is the fact?
It depends on your intensity of desire. If you're still not convinced, let's say, I'm not going to mention you specifically. Let's say I'm talking to someone and they're not convinced that about the material world being a place of miseries. They think that it's really not that bad, like Krishna describes. They're not completely convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, it's a question of shraddha. It's a question of faith. If one has complete faith, then you'll just give your heart to Krishna. But do we really trust completely Krishna? Do we actually 100% believe that if I do and give my heart to Krishna, then everything will be accomplished? Shraddha Shabde Visha Sakahe Sutrita Nishchaya. That's the definition of faith, actually. No, I mean, we have to be honest that there is some lack of faith, because the Bhagavatam teaches us, what is it? Yasha Devi Para Bhaktir Yata Tevi Tata Kuru Tashaite Katita Yarita Prakashante Mahatmana. That if one has that complete faith, you get complete realization. So we must be lacking that complete trust in Krishna. We're trusting our own, concocted ideas of things. And just, it's a question of trust. Like when Prabhupada said to us that you can do it, you can produce 17 books in 2 months, and impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary. We trusted Prabhupada. We just dove into it. And as a result, we were successful. So my understanding is why it takes so long is we just don't trust completely. We don't have that full faith. Even in other religions it says that faith can move mountains. Trust or faith can move mountains. So if one has that implicit faith or implicit trust, then you get Krishna. Then you'll be focused. But if you're not trusting that if I just serve Krishna, everything's accomplished, then you won't be focused. I got so many other things to take care of at the same time. So that's up to you. But one's faith increases by associating with those who have faith. One's faith increases by hearing from Prabhupada. One's faith increases by following the Krishna conscious process and feeling the reciprocation that you're getting from Krishna. So the question is, associate with advanced pure devotees, especially as Divine Guru Srila Prabhupada, and the faith will increase, and then you'll quickly become Krishna conscious. So that's really the key. The real key is faith or trust. If you really trust Krishna by chanting purely, all of your needs will be fulfilled. If you chant purely, you're going to come in contact with Krishna. I mean, I'm not going to ask you, but you're going to ask someone or ask yourself, do I really have that complete trust that Krishna is there in his holy name? And if the answer is no, then try to develop that trust. And that's trust. Your advancement is contingent upon having that trust in Krishna's holy name, and the Vedic literatures, and the pure devotees like that. But we're not completely trusting. Like you see, many people, they say, oh, we love Krishna, we trust Krishna, but what about this other demigod? People, especially people from India, they want to hedge their bets. You know what hedging the bet is? Does anyone know what hedging the bet is? No one knows what hedging the bet is. Hedging the bet, and I didn't do this, I wasn't a betting person. Hedging the bet means you go to the races, horse races, and let's say the favorite horse you have or you think is going to win is rocking horse in the 14th race or whatever. But you also bet at the same time on the 2 second favorite horses. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? So in case the favorite horse doesn't win, then you still, you get something back for your money. So that's called hedging the bet. Hedging the bet. Or like in the stock market, I guess it'd be buying short and selling long or whatever it is in the stock market. just so you make money if the stock goes up, you make money if the stock goes down. That's called hedging the bet. So many people from India, yes, they love Krishna, worship Krishna, but they're thinking, what if I neglect Ganesh? What if I neglect Durga? You've probably seen this, Rishikesh, right?
Yeah.
what if I neglect Kartikeya? What if I neglect? Actually, this pure devotee, we were quoting him this morning, Madhva Puri. He said, my obeisances and apologies to the demigods and the forefathers, but all I can do is worship Krishna. I'm paraphrasing what he said. So that's the faith, that we just worship Krishna and we do what Krishna wants. And that's our obligation. Actually, there was a discussion in class this morning about something similar to that, following certain cultural or Vedic norms. For example, let's say the wives of the Brahmanas, I think you probably know the story in the Krishna book, the wives of the Brahmanas who disobey their husbands to bring Krishna prasadam. You know the story, Rishikesh? You probably heard that story.
Yes, Gurudev.
So they had complete faith in Krishna, so much faith that they were able to ignore their husbands. And in the Vedic culture, that may be a little tricky to ignore your husband. In America, there's no problem with that. Wives always ignore your husbands. And even people from India, when they move to America, their wives ignore their husbands. Sorry about that one. But anyway, but it's, or New Zealand too. But in the traditional culture, it's a little bit something different. So in other words, they had complete faith that just by serving Krishna, they were ready to take all sorts of risks, or the gopis ready to take all sorts of risks like that. And that's traditionally what the sannyasa ashram means. I mean, maybe not so much nowadays. But traditionally, the sannyasa ashram means that one takes all sorts of risks, goes out and depends completely on Krishna. And that's faith. Or like when a person takes sannyasa in traditional culture, they have to have faith that Krishna is protecting them. Like Lord Chaitanya, when he took sannyasa, he was chanting this, and going through the forest, he was chanting this famous verse, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam, Krishna save me, Rama protect me. And he was just like completely fearless. Like Prabhupada, was he called Abhaya Charanalavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, someone who was fearless, having taken shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. But I think very few of us are fearless. I mean, how many of us have enough faith to go on a boat with no money, a steamboat, not a freighter, like Prabhupada did the Jaladuta, with no money, basically only knowing someone from a letter and not even knowing if there's going to be food when you get there or what type of food they have at 70 years of age. I mean, that takes a lot of faith, complete faith. I mean, I'm 70, over 70 now. So to have that faith of just sticking your neck out like that, in spite of all the devotees or most of the devotees just telling you, Abhay, just stay in Vrindavan. You're getting old. Everybody should want to die in Vrindavan. You don't know what's going to happen in that weird country, America. And actually, America's become weirder now too, which is interesting. You don't know what's going to happen in that country. And you're going in a boat, having heart attacks on the way over, and that takes faith. And you see, that's Prabhupada. He had such faith in the order of the spiritual master, and other devotees had that same order from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and I don't want to criticize whether they had faith or not, but Prabhupada had that complete faith in that order. And that's how we can understand he's an absolutely pure devotee. I mean, you can understand by what he did, yes, but I think even more important is Prabhupada's complete faith in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's words and taking in the words of his guru as his life and soul. That's evidence of a pure devotee. I mean, the pure devotee doesn't necessarily have to do anything like super fancy, super dynamic, which Prabhupada did. But the basic evidence of being a pure devotee is having complete faith. That's how you can tell someone's a pure devotee. Not simply that they can tell stories about the Rasa Leela nicely and cry in ecstasy, but if they have complete faith in Krishna and in the spiritual master and the Vedic literatures. It takes time to develop. And then you can become Krishna conscious in an instant. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev.
So, one more question from anybody who wants to ask a question.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna,
Radha
Gurudev.
Padma.
Oh.
So, you've got to take yourself off of mute.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories.
Gurudev, in text number 68, you were
Yeah.
talking about Lord Chaitanya giving 6 symptoms of devotional service.
Yeah.
And the 2 were mentioned, accept everything favorable and reject. What are the reject everything unfavorable? What are the other 4?
The other ones are to always understand the Lord is maintaining you. That's number 4. To understand the Lord is always protecting you. To have no separate interest other than the interest of the Lord. That's number 6 or 7, whatever. 5, yeah. And then the last one is to, the hardest one, to be meek and humble. So I'll go over that again. 6 symptoms of surrender are 1, to accept everything favorable. 2, to reject everything unfavorable. 3, to understand the Lord is always maintaining one. 4, to understand the Lord is always protecting one. 5, to have no separate interest other than the interest of the Lord. And 6 is to always be meek and humble. And sometimes they're listed in a different order, but those are the 6. But the first 2 are always accepting everything favorable, rejecting everything. These are the 6 symptoms of Sharanagati, of surrender to the Lord. Accepting everything favorable, rejecting everything unfavorable, and then whatever happens in life, Krishna will take care of me. Nitya Nityanam Chaitanya Stejananam Eko Bonram Vidadati Kama. That Krishna is maintaining everyone. Krishna will maintain me, and Krishna will protect me. That's up to 4. And to have no other interest other than pleasing Krishna. Some of them are connected like that. And then finally, to always be meek and humble. And these 6 are actually contained within the Shikshashtaka also. But Lord Chaitanya gave these 6 principles of, or 6 symptoms
Surrender.
of Sharanagati. Okay? That's a nice question. Okay, we are going
Guru
to...
Maharaj.
What's that? Another question? Oh, you know. Okay, so we're going to end now. And I don't see Nalini Kant, so we can end. So we're going to end now, and we'll... Whoop, Adi Guru to everyone.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Okay. Oh, there he is. Okay. He's operating. Don't take out the wrong organs. Whatever you do. So, thank you all for joining. And it's actually, oh yeah, we want to ask you all to pray that for these various devotees who have had operations the last few days. Gopi Gita in Australia, she is at opera. And let's see, who else? Anyway, there's several devotees who have had operations or recovering from operations now, and we ask you to pray for them all, that they can recover very, very quickly from their operations. Okay, on that happy note, we'll say goodbye. All glories to Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.